Let me make one more change here. Sorry. Not expecting this to be that difficult. Apparently I made some change here. I got too many computers.
Good.
Wait, I couldn't transfer a file because it's being used. I've never seen that before. Wow. Okay. I didn't know reading a file actually locked it from being copied.
From being copied?
Yeah. Apparently there's some funky stuff going on there with how copies are done. But that's okay.
Yeah, being copied's kind of weird.
All right. Now this is slightly better. All right, you'll have to let me know if this doesn't look right, but I'm pretty sure this is correct. So
Looks pretty full to me.
should have gotten a transition there.
Yes.
Yeah, nice water effect. Okay. So yeah, for other people, I'm going to start stressing we need people to be on time. We're just going to leave people in the dust because it's not fair to people like you who show up on time if we're going to delay. So we're not going to do that, I think, anymore. So we need people to be on time, be prepared, all the information. We're going to get better briefings put together. I'm going to show people how we can put together a lot of information very quickly and brief very quickly as well, because we're going to be relying on such things as standard operating procedures. We're going to be using a combination of written and oral briefings. And so things like TAC-in, Joker, Bingo, all of that is going to be streamlined with how we're going to get it to people. I don't remember if you were here. I don't think you were here last time. So I'll go over this stuff. The idea of we have two different types of briefings. We're going to do oral briefings and written briefings. For oral briefings, our current problem, not just at the 6, but in other places, is that too many people interrupt. They don't have this concept of a structured briefing. They really, I don't know how, but they just do not get it through their minds that we're going to get to things like TAC-in and Bingo and all those things. They interrupt the briefing to ask stupid questions. So we're going to make that change where people don't do that anymore. So we're going to have a structure where we're going to have one primary speaker. We're going to have a number of secondary speakers, and then who the secondary speakers are will change based on how it's going. So for now, like, I'm the primary speaker because I'm giving the briefing. Prime is a secondary speaker because he's backing me up running the 601st. And whenever we open the floor to questions, that's when everyone else becomes secondary speakers. They can speak for a bit, and then when they're done the question period, we go back. But I think you're already familiar with how briefing should go. I mean, it sounds like you already know quite a bit about that sort of stuff. Then written briefings are kind of similar. We're going to give people written information. I will ask, have you used Weapons Delivery Planner at all?
Yes, I've used it extensively. I think I know about 75% of its functionality.
Yeah, you're going to do quite well through all this, I imagine. But anyway, we're going to go through this anyway, because what we have is we have too many people at different levels of information. Where, like, some people like you understand whatever 75% of Weapons Delivery Planner. Other people have not even opened it. So we don't want that, where we come to a mission and everyone's at a different level. So the whole idea of the training squadron is we want to get people to a point where we're raising everybody to the same level. And I'm keeping this, I explained this last week, but we're keeping this very basic because some of the people in the 601st have barely flown at all. And they ramp started, but when they were flying, like they couldn't do two things at the same time. So they would have to look for a switch. They'd put their head down and the plane would kind of drift a little bit. But, you know, we're just going to try to get everybody to the same level. This is sort of basic flight stuff. We're going to split everybody up into flights and elements. The other big problem that we have at the 6 and in other places is that some of the people who fly do not understand the role of the wingman. So we're trying to fix that. We keep giving different short training missions on what we call the wingman mentality of backing up your lead, being where you should be, doing what you should be doing as a wingman. And what we're finding, at least what I'm finding, is that some of the people understand it, at least in theory, but they cannot actually practice it. They are struggling with understanding exactly what their role is as a wingman. So we have some people, for example, who neglect to fly in the correct position. They're kind of all over the place formation-wise, but they're busy staring at their radar, calling out every contact that they see. And we want to avoid things like that because that's not how the dynamic should be. So I think you're familiar with this, but I'll go over it real fast anyway. Number 1 is the lead, 2 is the wingman of number 1. And then 3 is now the element lead. Number 4 is the wingman of number 3. So we're effectively dividing the flight into 2 groups. 1 and 3 are essentially the 2 groups. 2 and 4 are the extensions of 1 and 3. They help 1 and 3 do their 2-group rule. If it's a 2-ship only, then 2 is the element, and they don't have anyone to back themselves up. They are the flight. And obviously, we need to be operating in cooperation, and we need to be synchronized in order to be effective. That's something also I notice that some people don't understand. They kind of look at it from a very narrow picture of, well, if I got a kill in the flight, I contributed. It's like, well, yes, but if your flight of 4 could have gotten, 5 kills or 10 kills by doing a grinder instead of, all splitting up and randomly getting 1 kill and then running away, you would have been more effective. So we're looking for fighting effectiveness at a group level. So the first thing that we're focusing on, which you saw in the mission, we're focusing on positioning. That's the first thing that I want people to do. We've got people who've been flying for years at different places. I notice it's the first thing whenever I fly with somebody new, their positioning is terrible. Particularly like the Falcon Lounge. If somebody shows up there and they want to fly, sure, come join us. When I look over my shoulder, they're nowhere to be found. They're either dead behind me, underneath me, or in trail by like 10 miles. So the first thing we want to do is we want to focus on positioning. And we're not super precise, by the way, at least not yet. We really don't care to quibble over your 3 miles in trail versus 5 miles in trail. Or, you're 40 degrees off to my right in a wedge formation as opposed to whatever 60 that we were aiming for or whatever it is. Like, we're not going to be that exact right now. All I really care is that if your flight lead were to turn around and look at you and expect you to be in the position he told you to be, that you're there. That's what I want everybody to be able to do. There are many times that leads have gone into combat. They have thought their wingman was right next to them. The wingman is talking as if he's right next to them. And then when they're ready to shoot, the wingman is actually not in position to fire. And it's not really effective if we have to keep turning around, if the leads have to turn around to watch the wingman. So this is why I'm going to really stress this for the rest of the training of getting people up to speed is positioning is more important than everything else that they might be thinking about. And of course, you can verify your position visually. You can use the canopy cues. There's a bunch of stuff on that where, by sitting straight in the cockpit and looking at where your flight lead is, you can kind of tell where he is angle-wise, if he's higher or lower, and how far you need to adjust. You can tell distance through TACAN. If you are completely blind and you don't know what direction the TACAN is telling you, you have the data link. In some cases, you can use your radar if you're far enough away. You can even tie to your lead and lock onto them, although that's not recommended to do regularly, but it is an option, especially if you're in a really bad scenario, like if you're trying to go NOE in a deep strike and everything, and you're trying to get an idea of something fast. You could lock him up, just to figure out where your lead is, how fast he's going, all that sort of stuff. But it's not your primary means of figuring out where you should be. And then, of course, there's the bullseye reference. If we're flying a 1980s theater, we have no data link. I don't know, maybe TACAN's busted, something's going on. You really need to figure out where somebody is. Bullseye reference over the radio is pretty much like your last option. And that'll get you an idea of where the lead is at. Also, I asked Craig if he wanted to help out here, so if he wants to chime in with anything, that's also good.
Okay, you can trust Prime, you can't trust Bible Clinger. He's a little bit shady. Okay, I've chimed in.
Yo.
Yeah, that's the kind of chiming we need. So for this thing, these are the formations we're going to be focusing on. There's line abreast or spread. For the intents of this mission, we're going to say that's the same thing. So if the AI says go spread, if your lead says go spread or go line abreast, it's the same idea. Just you're basically positioned next to your lead. For wedge, it's behind an offset, so you're behind an adjacent, just like the picture. And trail, you are behind him. If you're in a two ship and they call element, if they call go echelon, just treat it like wedge. It's the same thing as far as this mission is concerned. Obviously, there are differences and nuances with all of the distances and ideas. These distances for this mission are more guidelines of what you can try. If you are trying to fly wedge and you want to fly closer, if you want to fly real up close to them, I mean, go for it. Same with the others, but just be aware that flying close can be a little bit nasty if your lead doesn't care to check his blind spot before he turns. So you don't really want to fly all that close that often with somebody you're not familiar with, and especially not during combat. Any questions so far?
I do have one question, but it's about earlier statement.
Sure, go ahead.
You said instead of getting a kill and going back, you should set up a grinder. But as far as I have done it, most of the time it's like that. I set up a grinder, but usually I can't follow number one all the way because once he breaks very hard. So I extend the grinder, I fire my missile at my target, and then I go cold. But at that time, both 1 and 2 are cold, but even though we're cold, we're not together anymore. I can't find 1 because he braked really hard, and 2, I'm cold. And then once we reset, sometimes 1 will tell 2, stay cold, I'm going to reset, I'm going to go hot, but you stay cold. And then 1 and 2 are no longer in a formation. We're now far apart, but 3 and 4 are still there. They're still doing their own thing. They also got separated, but 3 and 4 are communicating with each other. 3 is giving 4 targets, etc. But what do you have to say about that? Because I try to follow number 1, but I get lost, and at that point, every aircraft in that flight is separate because we have to time when we go hot and when we go cold. So we're not really together. Someone is keeping situational awareness by staying hot all the time, but we're not really in a element anymore. It's kind of like the grinder is our formation. That?
That's a fantastic way of explaining what the main problem is. So the solution is a lot more complex than I can give you an answer right now, but I'll give you the basic idea. The basic idea is that the flight lead is going to try to reset. And the way he might do that is, let's say you're number 2 and I'm number 1. And let's say Prime and Old Craig are 3 and 4. So they're behind us by like 30 miles. We get the first shot, but the guys that we're shooting at are in trail. So we could do this one of two ways. I could take the lead and fire, and you could try to take the trail guy, or only one of us shoots at the lead guy, and we turn off cold, and we let 3 and 4 come in and delouse. So which one we do is dependent on more advanced BVR tactics. I forget the actual term. I think it's the factor range. Factor range tells us the next group coming in, that they're the factor in this case. What range are they? If they're below a certain range, we have to take them out too. And if they're outside that range, we don't take them. Now that's way beyond what we've been able to brief right now. We've touched on it, but we're still getting in with BVR in general about turning off. We still have people that for whatever reason don't even turn off cold. So we're still working on kind of baby steps that way. So what we want to do, let's say that he's within the factor range. So I say 2, you're still gonna take the trail. So you say, okay, now maybe we do some complex tactic where we do a wide azimuth or something, or offensive split. So that I know that the lead guy's not really a threat to you. So I take my shot at him and I turn off, and you keep pushing, and you take the shot on the second guy, and now you turn off cold. So now we're separated by whatever, 10 miles or something. You're following me. So we're both following cold. Prime and Old Craig come in and deal with their problem. And now they're cold. The way we're going to reset is that I'm going to turn hot, and you're going to delay your turn, so that when you turn back hot, you rejoin on me. And the way that's going to work is through a combination of TACAN and data link, or depending on if we have the data link continuous, you pretty much can do the whole thing with data link by just staring at your HSD and making the turn correctly.
And
does that answer your question?
It does. So basically, try to rejoin your element leader as much as you can, but in a situation where actually that's okay. But yeah, that answers the question.
If you get split where 1 and 2 are doing the grinder and 3 and 4 are doing something separate somewhere else, then at that point you're not supposed to be together. You're supposed to be separate.
Yeah, it's
so at that point,
really, yeah, it's really dynamic, and sometimes you just have to roll with it. But let's keep this in mind. At any point in time, you need to know where your lead is. So the lead could say rejoin at any time, and you must know where he is to at least fly in the direction that your lead is.
All right, that's nice.
Yeah, so at least have that.
And do that. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I do that subconsciously, even when I'm doing the strange element grinder. So that's good to know. That's something I'm doing right.
We've actually had a PvP scenario where this turned out that way, where the enemy split on us pretty hard. So we ended up splitting, where we had 1 and 2 go into one fight and 3 and 4 into another fight, and we were separated by like 20 miles. So we couldn't really help each other.
Yeah, that's another thing. It changes. So you could set up an element grinder or a within element grinder. Like, it just all depends on what the situation is. And usually lead is able to see that. He might not explain it, but the wingman kind of have to see what's going on and kind of understand what's going on.
And usually what you'll notice is that if you're supposed to, when you fire and you're supposed to turn off cold, don't turn back until your lead, in here at least, at the 6, the lead will let you know when he needs you on the cold thing. People's first mistake when they're, at least at the Falcon Lounge and the 6 people I flew with, and at UAF when I flew with them, they would always turn back too soon. They would always turn back into a missile or into an enemy jet. And the wingman would always get that feeling like he needed to be back in there. And that's just not the case. You need to be out, and you need to be coordinating with, and usually the lead will let you know, like 2 hook left, and then you just, like, especially what if you fire first and you go out cold, and I come out cold after you, and now I'm in trail of you. Well, in that case, I'm going to tell you when to come back hot. So I might say 2 hook left, and then you come back, you make the turn, and I do a delayed turn, and turn back with you. So the lead is the one that really wants to get the coordination going. He's thinking in terms of coordination. Wingman's thinking in terms of positioning. Where is he and where should he be? And it's when you're flowing cold that you're not in formation necessarily, and you're not supposed to be necessarily. It's more important to get out of the missile range and then reset. If you can do both, like if you fired on like MiG-21s and you're both turning out cold, yeah, then stay in formation.
Yeah, in a BVR, truly BVR, like there's a time where formation is not really relevant. Just don't get shot down, and at any point you need to know where your lead is, at least like either system-wise or radar or TACAN or something.
All right, that's good to know. That's actually very helpful. That answers my question.
Fantastic. Okay, so this is what we were getting at earlier. Aviation, what's the phrase? Aviation, navigation, communication, in that order?
Oh yeah, aviate, navigate, and communicate.
Yeah, sorry, as verbs. So yeah, aviate, fly the aircraft. First thing you got to be able to do is be in control of the aircraft, and you support the lead by being where you should be, doing what you should be doing in that respect. The lead has his own aircraft and his own responsibilities, and those responsibilities are in terms of like coordinating with other flights and coordinating within his own flight. So he's kind of like the glue that's holding the package and his flight together. And he's got a lot he's got to think about. When you've got a wingman that is, and when I use the term babysit on this slide, I mean like where the lead has to constantly be looking at the wingman. Hey, 2, you're about to hit the ground. Hey, 2, you're at 2,000 feet. Might want to come up here. Hey, 2, you're veering off to the left again. You might, you got to come back south. Like when you have to like fly the other aircraft remotely, there's a cost to that. You might be able to get through it, but you are dramatically decreasing the chances of success because the lead is no longer thinking about the things that he needs to be thinking about at a higher level, like about the formations, about the coordination, about the tactics. He's thinking now in terms of combat at a much lesser level. Any questions on this so far?
No. I do have something to say about the coming on time, though. Just a small thing.
Sure.
That events thing, that sesh thing and events. I noticed that I haven't been able to come to some. I think there's been 3 or 4 events that I signed up for, but I couldn't come. I was very tired or I was sick. Right now, my left kidney is in pain because the stone is coming out. But anyway,
no.
In all seriousness, yeah, but it's better if it comes out anyway. Just the storm before the storm. Anyway, one thing that I do I don't like to have this role, but one good thing that I see about using Sesh is that I can get reminders. That's why I see it, then I sign up for it, so I can get a reminder to confirm that if I can make it on that day or not. I kind of use it as a mini calendar too. That's why I never thought of it as something to count attendance, to count actual attendance. That's why I always sign up. It's because there's plenty of places that also use Sesh, and I want to see if it clashes with anything. So I think some other people might also have that mentality, and that's why they just sign up. So I just wanted to say that it's a possibility. The solution to that is to have a maybe role, but I won't advocate that. I don't think that's a great idea.
Right, we can do that. We can choose a maybe role. We do use it for attendance to understand, like for let's say bigger flights where we're doing multiplayer and all that. We need to know how many seats to frag. And we plan the mission around having like whatever it is, 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. And, if half the people don't show up, we're flying with a lot of wingmen, and it doesn't run the same way. So that's why it's important we have an idea of how many people are showing up. But you do raise a good point. Maybe what I'll do is maybe we could have a maybe role. And the other thing I might do is I might put it in the description of the event. Only sign up for this one if you can make it. But at the same time, I want to make something clear. I don't have a problem with real life cropping up. We're not the real military at all, So if you've got especially if you got a kidney stone, I mean, we understand if you can't make it. The only thing I was complaining about is sometimes we have where people sign up and they don't even, they don't
Say
really make
anything.
the effort. Yeah, they don't say anything. Like at least people sign up and then they'll send a message and they'll say, hey, whatever, I was at work and something happened and I gotta go take my kid to the hospital. It's like, okay, yeah, please do that, so that we understand that type of stuff happens.
All right, that's cool.
But we do have to.
Thing to know.
But the other reason why I'm harping on being on time is because if we got 20 people showing up at an event, because we're trying to grow our numbers a little bit. If we do get 20 people to show up to fly and half of them show up late, we don't know when the real start time is. So we set it for like 2 a.m. Zulu, and by 2:10 maybe people are showing up, and then 2:15, and then we start the briefing at 2:30, and then people straggle. It's like,
yeah, it's not okay.
There's an hour that we're wasting of everyone's time, and then there's no point to showing up early because you're gonna have to wait anyway.
That's like yesterday. It took 1 hour for the briefing to begin.
Right. So what happened on that is that the guy who fragged the flight suddenly came down with COVID, and he wasn't there, and we had to take over and do the briefing, and we weren't familiar with the mission or exactly what he put together. So we were kind of doing it on the fly.
Yeah, but it's okay. But it's just an example.
Yep.
I was actually really sleepy yesterday. I was very grumpy too.
I thought you did quite well, actually.
Yeah, you did very well.
Any questions about the aviation and all that? I think you've got this, but yeah, I figured we have people who are pretty new.
I had a time when my mindset was, if you because I played Arma before, if you're leading a flight, always tell your wingman exactly everything you do. It's kind of like civil aviation, when you advise everything you do. But I got corrected in that you're not supposed to do that in a military setting because that's a bad idea. You want to keep the comms clear. The wingman just has to guess, just has to follow all the time, and that was a big change for me, but it's something that I have to get used to.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It's not intuitive. I think for some people that we're not supposed to talk as much. The real issue for that is because the radios are half duplex. You cannot receive and transmit at the same time, and two people can't transmit at the same time. And because of that, the radio time is precious.
And that's why standards are important, and keeping visual and knowing what to do when stuff happens. So that's why standards are very important.
So the mission that we have here, I'm going to upload it to the training channel. But so the mission, you place it in the campaign directory, all the files. You have to put all the files in there. And then for the briefing, I'll also drag something real quick. I'll have another little thing in there for like TACAN and everything. And because I understand you're not doing so well health-wise and everything, you don't have to do this one now. Do it whenever you're up for it, because you're the only one here. If you'd like to do it now, we're here. But if you'd like to do the mission at another time when you're not in pain, we would understand that. So, but the mission is slot in as number 2. You're going to be doing ramp start with an AI. Just be ready to taxi when he taxis. Follow him around. Follow the orders. He's just going to give a bunch of formations and fly you around. And then we're going to say land with vectors. However, that may not be true. It's obviously up to the lead to change. So if he says overhead, do overhead. If he says vectors, do vectors. Whatever he gives you, just follow along and kind of enjoy the ride. And then, go ahead and park the jet and go from there. Obviously, we're trying to get people used to the idea of flying formation, but the other reason why I'm making them fly with an AI is because we have too many people in general that when they don't understand something, they don't really understand how to take the time to figure it out. So, for example, if they get something wrong with, with their TACAN, they're on the radio right away asking a bunch of questions. They don't bother to troubleshoot it. Same with the data link, same with everything else. They don't go over their briefing material. I suspect some people aren't even writing down briefing material.
I never write down briefing material.
But you don't ask a lot of stupid questions in the pit. Like if I say TACAN, you're 78 Yankee, you don't get into the pit and ask, hey, what's my TACAN? Because I wasn't paying attention.
Well, would you like to know why that is, Bible? It's a funny thing. You mentioned that. That's because we standardize shit. It makes it really fucking easy. So, Wolf, here's how shit works. And here's how, half the time, I don't have to listen to the brief. Now, to know what we're doing, I kind of have to know. But if Bible, I, myself, and Prime are flying, and I know we're the first squadron in our or first flight in our package, we're 15. I already know my air-to-air TACAN, and I already know my data link, and I already know Bible's gonna do 1578 Yankee, 7815 X-ray for 1, 2, 3, and 4. Already know that. If we were in 16, I would know 1679, 7916. And then for data link, we'd either be 1-1 or 1-2. Typically, if it's a 3 flight package, so if I have my 4 ship and 2 other 4 ships, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4 on the data link, and then I'm gonna do 2. Wait, what? 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, and then that would give me lead element of the other 2 flights in there. I don't have to listen to that for the briefing because it's standard. We already know it.
And you don't have to memorize all that right now, but it's so
here's the
useful.
thing. You're not going to memorize it. You're going to do it so much it's going to become second nature.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's how I got it.
So I have the mission, the files posted. There are only 3 files because there's no need for an INI this time. So those 3 files, technically you don't even need, I think, well, the way BMS works, you probably need the files just so it doesn't crash, but there's not much in there other than those 3. That's the mission description. And I will upload the PDF of the and I will even upload
Hey, interesting question. Why do we start with Yankee before X-ray? Because X-ray is the first alphabet before Yankee.
Because
I think X-ray is typically ground. That's what I heard, but I don't know if that's true or not.
I've just always chosen Yankee, and I've done it so much that everybody else has kind of adopted it.
But they are on separate bands. I don't know why did they do that? Maybe Prime, was there a convention where it was just easier to start with X-ray for ground and Yankee for air? Because I know they don't clash.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose X-ray for ground, but I don't know. Not really sure. But I use Yankee first because it's in weapon delivery planner first.
Oh.
And plus BMS uses it first anyway, so.
Woof, you use alternate launcher, right?
Yes.
Cool. And you use weapons delivery planner, right?
Yes.
Cool. Just checking.
We're going to actually have a lesson on like weapons delivery planner and all that later on. We're going to cover some things in there.
Cool, because I don't ever use it.
Okay, so those are the briefing notes. If you set your TACAN to 75 Yankee, you'll pick up the AI. And the fuel should. Yeah.
Wait, what? For the first flight or second, third, fourth, fifth?
For the first flight, they're flying as the wingman on this. So lead goes with 12 Yankee. This is the way the AI works. They go 12, 13, 14. They have their own standard, separate from our operating procedures. So I posted everything for you, Phantom, in the BMS 601 training channel.
All right. So if all goes good, am I supposed to do it now? Because I mean, I'm the
That's-
only one here.
You're supposed to do this in single player with an AI flight lead. So everybody if let's say we had everybody here, everybody would be doing this in single player.
Yep, I understand. I got it ready now, but
You don't have to do it now. You can do it whenever you'd like. But the idea is that we just want everyone to do this and upload the Acme of it by next week.
All right, I can do it now. Actually, it's but that's the point. I don't want to bother anybody if you people want to do other things because I'm the only one here.
Fine with me. I'm editing anyway, so.
We scheduled the time, and I'm just eating anyway. And
all right, then in that case, is there any more further briefing or just commit now?
this is just the last thing. Skills to take forward is basically stuff you already know. Being on time, being patient, flying the flight plan, that sort of thing.
BMS is broken and it's probably going to do some weird ass shit, so just be ready for unexpected.
Yeah, be ready. The AI does weird things. If you can't fly formation because the AI does an unrealistic maneuver, don't worry about it. Just get back in formation and do what you can. The whole point is just to see that you can get from point A to point B. You know, everybody can do that. We want to get everybody to the point where they can fly a flight plan with somebody else leading. Future topics, we're going to cover weapons delivery planner. We're going to cover multiplayer briefings. We're going to cover navigation. Things like that. We'll be covering some... I think we'll be covering some good things.